Hi, guys, and welcome back to my podcast, Young, Dumb, and Anxious. Today, we're going to be talking about all things girls. We're going to have a little girl talk session, and I used to do this a lot actually on my YouTube channel, and everyone seemed to really enjoy it. And actually, I think I did my last episode maybe a year and a half ago, and everyone for the past year has been asking me to bring back girl talk. And I thought that it would be a really good idea to bring it back for the podcast because I just feel like it's such a good podcast topic to just sit and chat about all things girly. I also do want to say that my last podcast episode with my dad did so well. I really wasn't expecting it to do so well. You guys seem to love it, and I will definitely have him back one day for some more chatting. But I did want to clear some things that people were asking. Number one, people thought that we looked really awkward together. We weren't awkward at all. We're just shy, and both of us are introverts and both of us are very shy people. And when it came to like sitting and talking in front of a camera, we were definitely a little like conscious, but I think that went away. At least I would like to believe so, that it went away after the first maybe 5 to 10 minutes, and then we were pretty comfortable. We're just both really shy people, and I also was feeling a lot of pressure because it was the first time I had my dad on my podcast, and I wanted him to be impressed, and I was like nervous about like doing a good enough job and stuff. But thank you for all of the kind words that everyone had to say about that. It was honestly really sweet, and I'm very, very grateful and happy with how everyone's reacting to it. There's definitely going to be more guest episodes coming up sooner than you think. But yeah, I just wanted to address that one thing because a lot of people were asking me about why we looked anxious and like scared and like awkward. We didn't. Another thing that people were saying that I was saying yeah too much, which I agree. Now that I listen back to it, I agree that I was saying yeah too much, but that's just how I talk in a conversation in general. Like, I want the person to feel heard, so I respond to everything they're saying. But I can, in hindsight, see how that might have been a little annoying. So I will keep that in mind for the next guest episodes and stuff. So thanks for that feedback. And the last thing I wanted to address was people said that they were very distracted by me shaking my legs. Now, this one I didn't really understand because, like, yes, I shake my legs. I'm an anxious person. That's like an anxious tick I have. One of my biggest ticks is shaking my legs. I have restless legs. But I don't see how that would be distracting from the conversation, but if it is an issue, I will keep that in mind too. Although I will say I don't really have control over it. It's not like a conscious thing I do, but I will try to keep control of it as much as I can in the future guest episodes and stuff. Anyway, now that that is done and I have addressed all those things, let's just get into the episode. I actually asked you guys on my Instagram, which by the way, go follow. It's Aaliyah Kashyap on Instagram. I asked you guys to send in some topics for girl talk and what you guys would want me to talk about, and we have a lot of questions and I don't know, lots of interesting things to talk about, so let's just get into it. A lot of people wanted to know about laser hair removal. So for those of you who don't know, I have been doing laser hair removal for the past 2.5 months. In the past, I did do it when I was studying in college. I did like 1 or 2 sessions of laser hair removal, but then I ended up moving back and I never got around to it. I was just shaving. But then recently, 2 months ago, I mentioned on my vlog and stuff that I started the whole thing again, and it has been life-changing, if I do say so myself. I have been doing my lower legs, so I'm not doing my thighs because my lower legs are the ones where like I get more hair. My thigh hair is like either really light or it's just thin and it doesn't really grow properly. My lower legs is where I'm doing it, my underarms is where I'm doing it, and my bikini vaginal region is where I'm doing it. And it's honestly been a great experience. I've done 4 sessions so far, and it is crazy how much of a difference there already is. Before, I was shaving every 2-ish days, and now I literally shave once a week and a half already after just 4 sessions. And I have about 4 more sessions to go, and then a couple of like maintenance sessions once every few months that I'll have to do. But honestly, it's insane how much of a difference it's made. I recently went to Bali. I had to shave before I went to Bali. I shaved everything, and I didn't have to shave at all during Bali, which is an experience I've never experienced before. Because usually when I'm on like a tropical vacation, I have to keep shaving my bikini line like every 2 to 3 days because I'm wearing bikinis and stuff. I didn't have to do any of that because it just didn't grow back for the whole week that I was there, which was a very, very amazing experience. There is one part about laser that does make me uncomfortable though, because it's the part where they have to do your vag, and that part always makes me so uncomfortable. I've done it like 4 or 5 times now, including when I was in the US, and it just doesn't get any more comfortable because you just have to sit there with your legs in eagle position while some stranger basically gets in deep in your vag and just like shaves you and then lasers you, which is definitely not the most comfortable experience, especially when they do your asshole. I want to die basically. But yeah, it is worth it. It's uncomfortable, but it's worth it. When it comes to the pain, it's not like very painful. There are parts of it that are painful, especially in your vag region because it's so sensitive down there. Certain parts do hurt, but mostly it's not as bad. And also, it's not like the worst pain in the world. It's more like a little uncomfortable pain. I think it's very much worth it. My laser hair remove experience has been amazing. Another thing that a lot of people wanted me to talk about was getting married at such a young age and about my wedding and all things wedding. So a lot of people were like, aren't you too young to get married? What do your parents think about you get married? And do you regret getting engaged at a young age and everything? What are your thoughts on getting married young? All sorts of things. I would say when it comes to getting married young, I don't really have like a thought on it, or it's not like an opinion because it's such a relative, subjective thing. It obviously depends on who you are, what your plans for the future are, how your relationship is, how your partner feels about it. It's like so many things that come into play there, where it really isn't like my opinion on it. I think it's subjective to what works for you works for you. For me, getting married at a young age works. In fact, I don't know if I've said this before, I might have. Until like a couple of years ago, I never even wanted to get married. I always told everyone I'm never getting married because I did come from like divorced parents. My parents are divorced. My dad has been divorced twice, and I've seen divorce so much where it was like a big fear of mine to ever get divorced. And I was like, you know what? It'll probably just be easier to be in a long term, committed relationship where I can live with the person. If I want to have kids, I can have kids with the person. But marriage just makes things complicated. So until like even just 2 years ago, I didn't want to get married, and Shane knew that and everyone knew that. But then I experienced such a beautiful relationship with Shane where I was like, you know what, I can see myself having a marriage with this person and being happy in it. And that was a crazy experience for me to even feel. But I decided that I did want to get married, and I wanted to get married now, which is crazy because it's a huge difference from where I was, for a very long time. So I really think it's a subjective thing. I don't really care about getting married young. I feel like Shane and I both are financially secure and we make our own money. We can support each other and ourselves, and we are just in a place where both of us were ready for it, and age really wasn't a factor that we considered, which we're grateful that it's not a factor that we had to consider for us. And our parents are supportive, all our friends are supportive, everyone's so excited for our wedding. And yeah, it's just a relative thing to each person in their relationship. A lot of people also wanted to know my opinion on like Botox and fillers and plastic surgery and such and things like that. And I think that plastic surgery and Botox and fillers, again, is a personal choice. I don't think people should be shaming people for what they choose to do with their body. I think everyone's allowed to do what they want to do. If you personally don't like the idea of it, then you don't have to get it done. But if someone else likes the idea of it and it makes them feel more confident and more secure with themselves, then I don't see any harm in that. What I do see a harm in is if you get something done and lie about it and you pretend like that's just who you are and that's you naturally. That's what I personally have an issue with, because especially if you're like in a place of influence, you're setting very unrealistic standards for people that look up to you. And maybe there's going to be people that, especially when it comes to young girls, and things like that. I feel like there's people that probably feel a little pressure to look a certain way, and when they see someone that they look up to in a power of influence talking about how they look like that naturally when they actually don't, it's misleading, and I think it's irresponsible. But the whole idea of getting Botox, fillers, plastic surgery, I have no issue with. I think you should just be honest about it. I also have actually considered getting fillers. I considered getting under eye fillers because I have really bad genetic dark circles. Like, I'm wearing concealer right now, but you probably wouldn't even be able to tell because my dark circles are like very genetically bad. My dad has them, my mom has them. We just have like sunken under eyes. So I did consider getting fillers. I still am, honestly. I think just like a month ago when I was in Bali, I came across this place that did fillers, and it was a really good price, and I highly considered getting it done in Bali, but then I decided to sit on it a little longer and like think about it and make sure that that's what I wanted. So I'm still thinking about it, but I think I will definitely get under eye fillers eventually. And when I do, you'll know. There were actually a lot of questions from women about not being able to orgasm, and like men, their partners not being able to get them to orgasm, and it's just not happening, and how to deal with the situation, things like that. And I think the idea of women reaching pleasure is not really talked about as much, and it should be, because it's the same thing. Like, men are just like, yeah dude, I like jerked off, I fucked her and I came, and I'm like, ew, firstly. Secondly, I feel like everyone's so okay with men talking about these things, but anytime a woman talks about her having an orgasm, people get so uncomfortable, as if it's like such a hush hush thing. Like, no, we like pleasure too. But I've actually been through it too in the past, where when I first became sexually active, obviously with sex and stuff, I wasn't having an orgasm because you've just started out, you don't really know your body as well. And what personally helped me was getting in there myself and figuring out what works for me, what feels good, what doesn't, what I like, what I don't like, things like that. And once you figure it out for yourself, what works for you and what doesn't, then you can talk to your partner about it. And that's what I did. I think when I had first become sexually active, I, like I said, got into it myself. I figured out what I liked, and then I sat my partner down and I said, hey, like, can we talk about this? And thankfully I had a partner that was understanding and was like willing to work with me. But yeah, we just like tried out things, we figured it out, and it happened. So I think one of the most important things you need to do when you're in a situation like that, where you're getting frustrated with not having an orgasm and things like that, is get a vibrator, use your hands, get in there yourself, figure out what you like, what feels good to you, what doesn't, and then talk to your partner about it and work with it and with him and work through it together. A lot of people also wanted me to talk about breakups and like how to move on from breakups and how do you like be friends with your ex after, things like that. I am not friends with any of my exes. I was for a bit. Things didn't work out. I think I was a little delusional and I thought you can be friends with your exes, and maybe sometimes you can. I think I can't. I personally think it's a bit uncomfortable for me, but that's okay. Like, they were meant to be in your life and then you move on when they're not anymore. But I think what used to work for me when it comes to moving on and getting over breakups was to keep myself distracted and surrounded with people I love. And that's what worked best for me. It's like talking to my friends, going and hanging out with my friends, doing things I love doing things you love doing, whether that's painting or you like playing an instrument, you like singing, you like dancing, whatever it is, like a hobby you enjoy doing, talking to your friends, surrounding yourself with people you love, and eventually you move on. Obviously, processing what has happened is also important, and reflecting from it and learning from it is obviously a part of it too. But I think the best way to move on is, once you're done processing and everything, just to keep yourself distracted with things you love doing and with people you love being around. And the last thing I wanted to answer was, after I did that episode with Shane, a lot of people asked me about this. So in that episode, I talked about how after I started taking antidepressants, I had something called post SSRI sexual dysfunction, which is basically like a big side effect of antidepressant is either the ability to orgasm goes away for men and women, or your libido goes way down. And for what I experienced was my libido going way down. And I talked about it a little in that podcast episode I did with Shane. I think it was 2 episodes ago or 3 episodes ago. You can go check it out if you want. But a lot of people actually asked me to talk a little more about it, which I'm very happy to do, because I feel like not enough people talk about that side effect of antidepressants, because it is something that really affects you. I remember when I first got on antidepressants, everything was fine in that area of my life. But after being on them for about 2 or 3 months, I noticed my libido went really down. I just didn't feel like having sex. I didn't feel like doing anything at all. But I had no idea why that was happening, because my psychiatrist didn't tell me about it. This was in the US. My psychiatrist in the US didn't tell me about it. I had no idea that this was a thing that could happen until I did some research myself, and I went on Reddit, and I went on a subreddit called post SSRI sexual dysfunction or something it was called. I'm not really sure what the name of the subreddit was because I haven't checked it out in a while, but it was a subreddit specifically for this issue. And I read so many people's stories about like them being on antidepressants and not being able to have sex anymore, and it's been years and things like that. I definitely got anxious, but you know, I just gave it time. Now it's different for every person. What happened with me might not happen with someone else. Some people might not even ever experience it, which is great, touch wood, but some people might experience it worse, some people might experience it less. Like, it obviously depends on you, your body, your medication, things like that. For me, and I'm only going to speak for myself, it was mostly my libido being way down, and I just talked to my partner about it. I talked to Shane about it, and I explained to him. He read up on it too, and he is an amazing guy, so obviously he was like willing to work with me. He was very patient. He helped me try out a few things that might help with my libido, and we managed to figure it out for ourselves. If you are in a relationship and you're struggling with this whole libido issue, because Shane and I have been there too in the past, just talk to your partner about it. Maybe educate him on what's going on, help him understand what's going on, come up with little solutions or little things that you guys can try together to help with the issue. Because at the end of the day, obviously your partner also has needs, but you also need to be understanding with your body and what's going on. So you need to reach like a middle ground where both of you aren't like struggling. So I think the most important thing you can do is talk to your partner, and both of you can just like read up on it and educate yourselves a little bit. But yeah, I think with that, I'm going to end this episode. I love girl talk. It's one of my favorite things. If you guys want more girl talk episodes like this on the podcast, let me know, and I will be very, very happy to do it. And if you have more questions for girl talk, you can also comment them down below, and in the next episode I can answer them, talk about the topics you want me to talk about and things like that. So make sure you comment it down below. Make sure you follow the podcast on whatever platform you're listening to this to, whether it's Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, whatever. It would mean a lot to me. And there's a new episode every Tuesday, so make sure you tune into my podcast, Young, Dumb and Anxious, every Tuesday for a new episode. And yeah, thank you guys for listening. I will see you next time.